All right, well, this is John Soricelli and the I Take It Personal podcast, and today I have Mr. Jeb Smith here, Coldwell banker, realtor, YouTuber, podcaster. Listen, I'm going to say that I'm intimidated sitting in this chair across from this man here. So, I mean that with the utmost respect. So, this episode, though, today is brought to us by J&J Coastal Lending. You'll hear a little bit more from our sponsor a little bit later on. But, man, Jeb and I are just going to talk, dude. Jeb's like, what are we going to talk about today? And I'm like, I don't know. It's going to be everything.
That's good, man. I'm up for a good conversation, so let's do it.
Yeah, man. So we have known each other now for probably about 10 years or so, 10 years.
Yep.
And, you know, what's interesting is I remember getting some emails from you with your market update videos coming across, 8 to 10 years ago. And, I remember visually like you standing in front of a white background giving your kind of like monthly update, right? You're like,
dude, I'm having nightmares thinking about this.
But, then going back to, and from my perspective, getting into COVID, you really leaned into YouTube.
Yes.
And now fast forward, and you're almost at 80,000 subscribers on your page.
Yep.
Your videos that you put out, and we'll talk about them a little bit more, in the real estate business. So you are a functioning, producing, successful realtor in the Orange County, California market.
I think so.
Yeah, I would 100%, 100%. And from that perspective, though, your videos are somewhere on average between 20,000 and more views per video. And then you've launched your podcast now, which is the Educated Homebuyer Podcast. And, you're doing all the things that I'm trying to figure out. So I guess let's just tell me about like your journey. Like, how'd you land there? How'd you go from 9 years ago standing in front of Beach Walk with a sweet haircut?
That is a good video. That is and good and not in the same sense that most people think.
To like today.
So I think let's back up a moment. So whether you know this about me or not, I shoot first, ask questions later. Okay. And what I mean by that is a lot of people overthink, right? They plan, they do things, want it perfectly before they move forward. I'm the kind of person that if I want to do something, I do it, and I'll figure it out, and I'll continue to get better at that craft. Video has been one of those things that I've gotten better over time. I can say that with, I don't like talking about myself. I don't really like even talking about YouTube to some extent because that's not who I am. I don't like being the center of attention. And people say, well, you do all these videos, like you must love. I don't.
We're so similar like that.
I like being the guy in the background. Now, after a couple of drinks and that sort of thing, I loosen up and I become more,
So are you drunk
charismatic.
on all your YouTube videos?
Not yet. Right now? Not yet. Maybe that's the next step. But I'm typically, that person that, like I said, I shoot first, ask questions later. So back in the day, we're going to go back 2012-ish, just to kind of just recap here real quickly. I had Tom Ferry coaching, and I had a coach back then, no longer with Tom Ferry, but one of the things they were pitching back in 2012-ish was you got to get on video. This was a long time ago, man, and 10 years ago, right? And I was like, dude, I'm not doing video. That's what I'm telling the coach. I'm not doing it. Convince me. So I started doing one video here and there, right? I would do a video a month or a video every couple of months, just getting in front of the camera. And it primarily just went out to my database. It was on YouTube just so I had a link to be able to post it. And, like you said, continued to do those. There was no consistency really in them. I would say once a month was the goal, but they weren't once a month. They were, once every couple of months. For a couple of years and on and off through that period of time. And then, like you said, COVID happened. COVID was eye-opening for me in many ways. Not from the being sick and all of that. That's one thing. But for me, it was like all my eggs are in one basket, real estate. And if I can't sell real estate, I can't make money. You know me. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, 3 kids, and we 100% depend on me making money in order for us to have a lifestyle and be able to survive for that matter. And so March came and schools were shut down, and for the first 2 weeks, it was fun. Hey, it's going to go away. We're all going to be good. And I had started probably 6 months prior to that doing consistent content. I was doing content consistently because my goal was to grow a YouTube channel.
So what's your
point.
cadence at consistent? What does consistent mean for you?
Back then, it was probably 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay, that's
It
a lot.
was quick.
And we're talking about YouTube videos?
YouTube videos.
10, 12 minutes?
10, not necessarily, 5 to 10, right? Because I thought at that time it was quantity over quality. So the more videos you did, the quicker you could grow, is what I thought. And so I was just doing a lot of evergreen content, things that people would search for, right? Because I thought, again, it's YouTube, it's Google, it's all SEO based, it's all search related for the most part, right? I have a different perspective now, but back then, so I was doing things that were evergreen in the sense that what's a 1031 tax exchange? What are capital gains? What are things that people are going to search for that's going to be evergreen, what have you? So I did these videos and views here and there, nothing crazy. And then COVID happened. And I started talking about mortgage forbearance, and because it was a hot topic.
I remember this.
And this was eye-opening for me in a couple of different ways. But I started talking about mortgage forbearance, and it got a lot of traction, right? Because people were fearful of losing their jobs. They were fearful of not having be able to pay their mortgage, and this was relief for them. And it was changing so much. The news was changing every day. And I was using that as an opportunity to talk about it. And something happened in that I realized how quickly fear spreads, how quickly people grasp on to fear. And I was like, that is it's crazy because I'm posting content that I believe is helpful to people, right? Talking about forbearance. And then I have everyone around me talking about how, the program is one thing or another. And I'm basically just factual with everything, right? In talking about it. And it helped a lot of people because it gave them the information they wanted. But on the other side, you had people started talking about housing crashes and everything else. And I saw how quickly that stuff was spreading. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to take the other side of this, not because I'm, just want to be opposite or of the crashers and whatever, but I follow a lot of really smart people that are going back to basic economics, supply, demand, and what have you. And I read a lot of smart people and follow a lot of smart people. And so I was using that information in my own words and posting it. Well, that started to get traction too, because it was opposite of the fear, right? It was answering it was giving them some sense of relief. Okay, it's not going to happen. And from there, man, the content's kind of progressed, right? I mean, it is still very much real estate related, but the real estate piece is a piece of it. Having a background in mortgage prior to real estate has helped me grow my channel because I can confidently talk about loan programs and different things that a lot of real estate agents can't talk about in detail. And so that's allowed me two sides, right? I can talk about real estate. I can also talk about mortgage to some extent and give people the information and the questions they want. And if I don't have the answers, then it's an easy referral to someone else, right? But that has opened up my channel and opportunity to talk about a lot of different things. And then in addition to that, now, we're talking about inflation and just kind of giving into global economics to some extent. So we started really, really small, Orange County real estate, and now we're talking about global economics, how different things are affecting interest rates, how they're affecting home prices. And so that's allowed me to reach a broader audience and grow. So that's the YouTube thing.
So, hey, we're just going to, who knows, maybe we're going to talk about this the whole time. I don't know. But let's expand a little bit on that. Tell me what your creation process looks like, right? Because I am one of the people that overanalyzes. I'm the antithesis. Which is the word we were trying to find before. The opposite of what you were talking about. That's the word. I'm the antithesis of it. Now, but I am aware of that. So I recognize it and I work through it. And I go I'm going to stop. I'm just going to do it like we're going right now. Right? So what's your creation process like of the content? Are you scripting it? Are you spending a certain amount of time reviewing it? How does it look like before you're shooting that video, and what's your cadence around that?
Okay, so let's talk about where it started. It started with a one-take video.
Yep.
So back in COVID days, when I started filming these, it was a one-take. There were no jump cuts. It was Jeb, starting a camera, finishing it, cutting the beginning, cutting the end. If
and
I
just
screwed
talking
up,
from the heart.
Yep. No, talking from the heart, no script, right? Just talking about what I knew. I knew the facts, so I'm talking about the facts. Didn't have any sort of direction I was going with it. I would often finish videos and go, crap, dude, I forgot to mention this, this, and this. And I'm like, meh, who cares? Just publish it, right? I would go 3-4 minutes in a video, screw up. I'd start the whole video over. That's how because I was editing. I'm not an editor, right? So I didn't know about editing. I didn't know about jump cuts. I knew what they were, but I was like, I don't have time to deal with that. So it's this and this. That is now changed. Right now I have editors in the Philippines. I have 3 different editors for 3 different types of things. I'm actually hiring an editor now for a new thing that I'm doing. So
do you want to tease it now? What's the new thing you're doing?
I'm going to talk about Huntington Beach. It's going to be primarily around Huntington Beach real estate, Huntington Beach locality.
So getting local on it, yeah.
I'm getting more hyper local. From a real estate perspective, because I have a lot of people that find my content anyway. So I'm gonna go local with some of the content and start a whole nother channel with it and see where it goes. So that is one piece of it. So now it is very much I type out on a Word document kind of what I want to talk about, maybe some headlines, some bullet points that I want to mention, and then from there I don't really put them in order. I just kind of start it, and then I think of, okay, how am I going to start this video? Some sort of, not hookish, but just more of a bold statement for the most part in a lot of ways, right? It depends on what the video is. If it's mortgage related, I don't really do so much of that. If it's housing market related and it's quote unquote somewhat clickbaitish, the topic and the thumbnail and all that, I get a little bit more
bold statement
to start with, just to kind of get people interested. And then I kind of have a sequence through the video where, I try to bring people, so I start with that statement, summarize a little bit, kind of bring them back in with another statement, tease what I'm going to talk about later, and then kind of get into the video.
So how do you decide what videos you're making? Like you're putting out how many, so you said earlier that your original thought was that, quantity, right? And what is your cadence now?
My cadence now is I post a video Monday and Friday.
Okay.
And I do a live on Wednesday. My live on Wednesday, there's no prep. Zero prep in that because it's question and answer, right? So start that episode off or that live off by giving a 10, 15-minute update on the economy, what's happened over the last week that may or may not affect mortgage rates, housing market, inflation, whatever. And then we go into questions, right? Question answer. And so that's easy. You either know it or you don't. And so there's no prep in that. Monday, Friday videos change. So I have a couple of different things I talk about. Let's say 6 to 8 things that I talk about. And they range from everything from just overall financing. Might talk about different types of loan programs, whereas I might talk about FHA specifically as being a type of video. I talk about California, sometimes Orange County being in that California video. I talk about the overall housing market. Sometimes I'll talk about inflation and just, I kind of bounce around, but I'm spacing these out enough where I'm talking about, if I talk about, they all center around housing. They all have some sort of element of the housing market or real estate involved, right? But they are grouped, if you will, kind of in a different manner, because I don't want to consistently talk about only the same thing over and over again.
So are you coming up with subjects? How early in advance are these videos planned out that you're going to be shooting?
So my Monday video that I've already that for next week and my Friday video are already filmed and recorded. But
before the recording, like how long do you plan? Like I'm going to record this video on this subject to go out for Monday.
Okay, so I know that next week let me think here for a moment. So this week, Monday's video is going to be an interest rate video,
which you already recorded.
Yep. And then Friday is going to be centered around FHA.
Already recorded.
So I have to look at my schedule of what's going to be, what typically comes after that. I think I talk about California next.
Got it. So your rotation of these subjects.
Yes.
Your rotation of these. So you're like, okay, this is now a California-centric one. Yep. So I'm going to look at and do the Dream for All.
Actually, that posted.
Okay.
That posted today. So I didn't center that around. Well, actually, you're right. So California was today. So I don't know what it is, but I have that done. And so how long before I'll record? So this is the interesting
So you
part.
know the subject is
know,
generally like California specific.
right.
And then now you have to go figure out what the video is going to be about.
Correct. So I will, depends. It depends on what the topic is. So I'm constantly, this is the downside of, I don't like calling myself a content creator, but that's essentially what I am. But I'm always thinking about content, and it's to
A fault?
To a fault, because it's like I know I've got to film that video. The quicker I get it done, the quicker it's out of my head and I can move on. So sometimes I go in the office that day and I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. And I'll start reading, I'll start doing some different things, and I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'll write some notes and I'll film it right then. Some I know a couple days in advance, hey, this is what I'm going to talk about, and I'll be thinking about it. Dude, I very much, I don't put a lot of time, energy, and effort into this stuff. And I hate to say that because it is important in multiple ways to different people and, whatever. But
you're not taking away the importance by you saying that you're not putting you're not devaluing it.
I'm not.
By saying that you don't put a lot of time, effort, and energy into it. Listen, you have a rotation of six subjects and a calendar that you follow. You're shooting 2 weeks in advance your subject. You have a structure around it to it. You have 4 editors that are doing it. You've built a structure and a business around it. You just haven't realized it, but you're good at it. So you're not sitting there going like, how am I going to talk about this and grinding over it in a strategy session with a team of 7 and writing it out.
No, but it could be better. Here's the thing is like the thing I tell everybody that wants to film content, and this is probably the most profound thing I can tell anyone, is that I am not my audience.
Yeah.
Right? In the sense that when I'm watching someone else, if the video quality sucks, if the audio sucks, if the production of it sucks, I'm out. Right? But I do film in good quality. I do film with good audio. The quality is mediocre. Could it be better? Absolutely. That takes time on me hiring a better editor, which requires me doing more, going through the process of dealing with them, telling them what I want versus, hey, this is the video. Here's the B-roll. You heard me say it, put it in, right? So it's a double-edged sword to some extent. I just know the quality could be better, which in turn would get more views, because at the end of the day, there's people that look at the content and say, they're like me. This isn't good enough.
Yeah, I'm out.
And I'm okay with that. But the reason I tell that to most people is because most people, when I first started, I wanted my videos to be like I wanted to watch them. And I was like, I can't get the quality. It's not good enough. And then I realized there were times where I posted a video and in my head, the video sucked. And I'm like, I should have redone it or shouldn't have done it. And I posted it and people commented like, dude, video is great, so valuable, whatever. And I started thinking, okay, that's good because I thought it sucked. And I came to realize, okay, there's people out there that don't care. Like they appreciate the quality. They appreciate the content. They appreciate a lot of it. And I think we all probably overanalyze ourselves more than other people do. We think that people are thinking about us more than people actually do. Nobody cares. I watch a lot of your videos. I watch a lot of people. I'm never looking at your video going, this sucks. I'm listening to the content and I'm listening to your content, figuring out, okay, how can I reuse that content for myself? That's it. Like I'm never like going, oh, John, like he butchered that. Like never. Like because I know the game of what it is. And I'm like, hey, he's doing the work. It's good. And so anybody that's thinking about doing it, just do it. Like nobody cares.
So let's talk about that because you brought up some stuff that is going to be interesting. So how has this impacted your professional life as a realtor, your professional life period as an earner, right? And your personal life? I want to talk about those 3 areas of that.
Personally, I don't know that it's affected me at all or changed my life to any degree that I can think of. Financially, it's added a different layer to my business, right? We go back,
revenue stream.
We go back to March of COVID. I had one revenue stream. Now I have multiple, and it's all around YouTube. So a third of my revenue was generated from YouTube last year. So a sizable amount of YouTube came from, not directly from YouTube, but different pieces that I would have never come about had it not been YouTube.
Creating content.
content creation around YouTube. Yeah. And it's all that is directly related to YouTube, that third that I mentioned. So that piece. So financially, there's a big piece there. Real estate, it's added, I don't. Here's the thing. I meet with clients. I never mention YouTube.
Why the fuck not?
I don't. My wife asks me all the time. She's like,
talk to them about to get more like listings. To just stomp on the throat of the person next to you and be like, yo, I got 80,000 people watching my videos every day. I'm going to promote your shit.
Yeah, I don't, because I don't do that. Like, I'm not going to put your video on there, so I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to do that, for one. But my wife says that. She's like, because I don't even, like, I'll meet with people all the time, and they're like, I mean, even friends of mine, they have no idea that I do YouTube. And she's like, because I've always been not embarrassed by it, but it's just like, it's just kind of,
you said something earlier, and I said, like, we're so similar to that. Like, I don't want to be sitting here in front of the camera right now. Like, I'd much rather be doing something else, quote unquote, but I enjoy it when I do it.
Agreed.
And I know that it's going to help me grow my business and my brand. But to your point, like, you'd rather be the guy behind the scenes, but you figured out how to do it and you're comfortable with doing it. But like, if you wrote down on a piece of paper what you want to do, the first thing is not creating fucking videos.
No.
We're very similar like that.
But I will say it has helped me in different areas of the real estate business. I get more reach out from real estate agents probably than I do from clients finding it. I haven't tried to monetize or do anything with that on the real estate agent side, like try to create a business around it. We're
going to be talking about that conversation.
So that's a whole different deal. But it's opened up opportunities. I mean, I get business out of it. People, listings, buyers, from YouTube, and with the new channel that I'm going to create, I will get a lot more of that just because of where we're located.
And that's probably what you'll promote it more too when you're in your day-to-day real estate business, because you're like, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what? We're going to take a quick break here and hear a quick word from our sponsor, and then we're going to come back, and I want to hear from Jeb about some of the haters in the comments. Because this is what I need some help with. So we'll be right back here. A quick break from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to us by J&J Coastal Lending. J&J is an independent mortgage broker with a network of over 70 different investors offering hundreds of loan programs. Whether your personal loan needs are simple or complicated, if you need a $200,000 loan or a $2 million loan, J&J will find the best loan program and rate. FHA, VA, conventional, jumbo, or a first-time homebuyer in need of down payment assistance. Regular income docs or outside the box, no documentation loan options. J&J has a solution to meet your unique needs. Visit www.thinkjnj.com for a no-cost, no-commitment evaluation. And when you're there, mention this podcast, and J&J will give you $1,000 in lender credits on your next home loan. All right, man, we are back with Mr. Jeb Smith, and we happen to be talking a lot about his YouTube aspect of his business. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about others. But the first thing I want to, on the I Take That Personal podcast here, right? I want to get into a little bit about the personal, how you deal with the haters and that personal aspect of it. Because, listen, I am not where you are yet, but I focus right now a lot more on the short form content. And we have, I have a lot of videos. Some of them are getting 200, 300,000 views. And there's a lot of people in the comments there. And then there's people who are saying, knock on wood, I haven't gotten the personal attack yet. Like, you're fat and ugly, right? But like, I'm just waiting
it's for that. I'm just
waiting for that one. But it's more like the attack about, what I'm saying is full of shit or it's not factual. So how do you deal with that? Because I'll tell you right now, I found myself on my fucking phone typing responses to people when I should be working on doing something else. Like, it's emotionally, personally, and mentally distracted me. So how are you dealing with it?
So here's another one of those things. So I have pretty thick skin in the sense that very little bothers me about what people say about me knowing or not knowing something. I just don't care, right? And so I don't respond to the majority of those comments. I'm very sarcastic by nature, and so I have like pretty quick wit in response, and I want to say stuff a lot of times, but it's one of those things that what I say is hurtful to that person, but if somebody else reads the comment, it might also be hurtful to them in a sense, right? And so I stay away from it because I'm like, I don't want to be like
I'm more defending the point.
I don't defend the point.
Mine's always like, oh, your math's completely wrong. This is completely fraudulent.
Yeah.
And now I'm going back and spending 30 minutes explaining to them how it's actually correct. Right? So, like, I'm not taking like like you're an idiot and you're just clickbaiting. Like, I leave that alone.
Right.
Right. But when they're factually telling me what I'm saying is wrong and factually it's right,
I don't relate so much. I mean, I just kind of leave it out there. I mean, a lot of stuff I'll respond to. I look at the comments on videos that post for about 24 hours. I'll respond to comments. After about 24 hours on certain videos, I don't respond anymore.
Yeah.
And if I respond to somebody and they respond back, I never respond back again. So I get one response and that's it. Most of the time it's not negative. If I have something negative to say, a lot of times I'll just use an emoji, like it's like an emoji that may or may not even be related to what they're doing.
What that eggplant was.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's like I'll just say thanks for the support, or I appreciate you helping out with the YouTube algorithm by commenting on my video. Something along those lines.
So a couple of them, I've been like, thanks for watching. And then I'll say my response and I'll be like, I'll wait for your apology.
Yeah. I mean, I think they want you to get riled up.
So like, here's an example, right? I'm going to give you an example. We're going to talk about one. So I posted a video about FHA reducing their, and this is a short form video.
Yep.
FHA reduced on Instagram, right?
Yep.
It's a short form video and it's about FHA reducing its funding fee from its monthly mortgage insurance from 85 basis points to 55 basis points, right? Cool. So I post the video there, and the example I use in the video, I think it's like it's a $500,000 loan I use. That's the example. And then somebody comments now, and the thing has like 200-something thousand views right now. A lot of people, right? So somebody comments in there, and the guy says something to the effect of, like, this is completely a lie. It's absolutely ridiculous. You are the reason why people shouldn't do that. You can't even get an FHA loan of $500,000. And he's a realtor.
Right.
So my first response back was a little aggressive, and they deleted it. Right. And then I responded back to him, and I said, like, hey, listen, thanks for watching. Let me explain to you that the max loan amount is based off of this and this and this and this, right? And like, oh, by the way, like the max loan amount for an FHA 4-unit property is $2,490,000, right? I'll wait for your apology. And then like he goes back and he just deletes his comment, right? Like eventually it's gone and the whole situation's gone. But like I can't not reply to that one. So I have to grow up, Jeb. I have to grow up, Jeb.
Growing up, dude. There's a lot of people in that boat. Like I'll type a lot of responses and then I delete them. Like I type it out and I'm like, that's aggressive. Like you can't call that guy that.
Yeah.
So I just, or girl or whatever. So I just like, I back off. I'm like, okay, I'll just and move on. But my wife, like she tells me all the time, she asks,
is she in the comments defending
you?
No.
She doesn't
get her in there. Get her in there.
She goes, I can't read them because she'll get offended.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't.
So talk to me about the podcast, right? You got the Educated Homebuyer podcast, right? Yep. So talk to me about what you're doing on the Educated Homebuyer podcast.
So that is really just a deep dive into very specific topics around home buying. And what I mean by that is like when you're talking to a typical home buyer and you're talking about mortgage insurance, for example, you might just cover the surface layer, bird's eye view, just kind of quickly of what mortgage insurance is. There's a lot of questions around mortgage insurance when you get deep into it. When can it be removed? Can you, refinance? Just all the questions.
Versus FHA, like all that stuff.
A ton of things, right? And so this is a deep dive into really almost trying to create a book on home buying to some degree in detail. And so it's everything about why home buying is important, to why home ownership is important, rather, to specifics about, everything from finding a real estate agent, finding a mortgage professional, finding, inspectors, or, what have you. So it's really a dive into those. And believe it or not, it's surprised by how many people actually want to know the details of all of this information versus, hey, I don't really need to know all that because I'm just getting, this type of loan. But dude, it's taken off a life of its own. And it's growing exponentially. I think, right now audience size started about a year ago. So audience size currently is sitting, I think, at like 1,700-ish people. Average view or average listen per episode is like, I don't know, 700 or 800 per episode. So, from what I understand on podcasts starting about a year ago, the growth is pretty good. So it's one of those things, whether you're doing video, short form video, long form video, podcasting, whatever, consistency, right? It comes down to consistency.
How much about the audience do you know? Are they industry professionals? Are they people that are looking to learn the business? Are they consumers? Do you have any way to
So far, what I know on the podcast side, it's primarily consumers.
Okay.
Because typically when agents will comment, they it's an agent for one reason or another, in their signature or in their YouTube handle or whatever. You're dealing with an agent. Whereas in the educated home buyer, that side, a lot of the responses are like people saying, hey, look, or they have additional questions about an episode, or they're saying, hey, listen, we value the information that you're providing. Thank you, blah, 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 and giving comments. So that's rewarding. I mean, that's kind of keeps it going. They're easy conversations to have for the most part. That stuff is a little more structured in the sense that, it is when you're trying to get not super deep on a subject, but really cover everything on a subject so that you're not leaving something out. Because like I mentioned earlier, I have a tendency to miss certain things on topics because I'm quick to do
Turn
things
on the
just
camera, yeah.
to get it moving, to get past it. Whereas that, don't really want to miss anything. So we're, making an outline and trying to make sure we're covering everything.
So other than turning on the camera sooner, right, and shooting sooner, what's something that you would give as a suggestion that you've learned, a learning lesson, something that you would think that someone who wants to start to create content to some degree should capitalize on? And I know you gave a couple nuggets here as we talked, but let's get
I mean, I think the most important two things I mentioned earlier is the sound. I think sound is number one. Sound comes over video quality, in my opinion. Just because people listen to it in audio and sometimes aren't even watching the screen. So I think audio is number one, hands down. Video quality is second. Now that doesn't mean you need to go out and buy a $5,000 camera or a $2,000, $2,500 lens to do it. iPhones are good enough to do it. So those two things are first and foremost. But for anybody wanting to start video, what I tell this to everyone, get in front of the camera for 30 days. 30 days straight. Film yourself for 30 days straight and have an idea of what you're going to talk about. Don't just get in front of the camera and talk, but create, subjects that you want to talk about. Record them. You don't even have to watch them. Just record them. And then once you feel like you're comfortable in front of the camera, 30 days you'll be comfortable in front of the camera to some extent. Not 100% comfortable, but you'll be better. But then what I say is go online, find an editor. Editors are easy to find, especially VAs and that sort of thing. That's where I get all of my video editing currently, is that you take a video that you thought sucked or that maybe you thought it was okay, and give it to an editor and ask them to edit it and look at what comes back to you. Because I'll tell you all the time, I tell my wife, and I'm joking when I talk to her, and I'm like, I was surprised to see what I was going to say, because I filmed the video.
And I don't remember what we talked about.
It took 25 minutes to film like a 12-minute video because I had jump cuts, or I was like, I said something and I'm like, I'm rethinking or whatever. And then I'll re-say it again. And so when I get the video back and I'm like, pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. That guy is pretty good.
that was a lot better than what I did into it. But everybody thinks that it has to be perfect coming out. Yeah. All you got to do is say, I don't film like this. I know people that film like this that are very successful on YouTube. In fact, one of them is approaching 100,000 subs at the moment. He literally writes every word out, and he films it one sentence at a time, and they jump cut it one sentence at a time in every video that he does. And guess what? It's really easy to say one sentence at a time and redo that. And so people think you got to sit there and talk for 20 minutes. You don't. I mean, some people are better at it than others. I feel like I can talk, just about anything.
That's why you're comfortable with the podcast and you're comfortable on the lives and the different things that you're doing too as well.
Just like try to,
So what's next? I know you're doing the local Huntington Beach thing, but what's next for you on the agenda?
Dude, I don't know, man. Just kind of riding it, see where it goes. I like creating content. I think it's fun. I have some ideas of what I want to do, but it requires additional things from me on that side. I'd ideally like to add some flipping content to my channel that is more story related content. Not super HGTV, but a little different than what I'm doing now. And so, finding opportunities, finding the right properties in the market, distressed sales, and just doing some different things to add another layer to the business, but also a layer that I can create content around that kind of still drives this whole thing.
Yeah. So you said stories, right? So give me a story of somebody that you helped through your content. Give me some wins that you remember getting from your content. And it doesn't mean like you got a transaction from it, but give me a couple of stories that stick out for you that you've educated or helped somebody and accomplished.
I mean, I've got several on that I've actually helped from being able to buyers, right? I mean, I have buyers. These are the best stories, and it's not really a deep story, but it's me telling you that people are constantly commenting in my videos saying, I'm so glad that I listened to you in 2020 and didn't listen to X, Y, and Z because they're still preaching the same thing they were preaching back then. And I bought a house. I have a super low interest rate, equity in my property, and I'm not dealing with all this mess. Like that to me is a win.
Validation, yeah.
I mean, yeah, validation. And I'm not looking to be validated, but it's like, it's rewarding to know that, hey, listen, the idea of all of this stuff was educating people, providing information that you can use. You know, the one thing that drives me nuts that people say all the time is, Jeb, you just want people to buy houses so you can make money. I'm like, dude, listen, you're an idiot for one, because I don't benefit if you're buying a house in Kansas. Like, you know, maybe a referral fee if you reach out to me and I'm able to, but the majority of people aren't doing that. So I don't care, whether or not you buy a house. I want to tell you why homeownership's important, why 65% of Americans choose to own a home at some point in their life, and why, 90% of their retirement wealth is in real estate. They got there owning real estate, and why
I want to give you the tools in order to make a decision on whether or not it's right for you.
And maybe it's not right for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care but my goal isn't to get you to buy a house. It's to give you the information you need so that you can buy a house when it's the right time for you. I do believe that everyone should own a house, but not everyone should own a house today or tomorrow. This is the information. Use it how you want, but look at the people around you. Look at the people that you know that own real estate versus those that don't. And if you choose which side you want to be on.
And at least be educated, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Be an educated home buyer.
Exactly.
That's why that name came up. That came up.
My audience chose that.
Did it really?
Yeah. So
your YouTube audience chose that?
Yeah. So we gave that was my favorite, but we gave 4 or 5 different choices to the audience to say, if you called a podcast, if we had a podcast name, what would it be? And that's the one they chose, and that was the favorite, so that's the one we went with.
And it's great, man.
There we go.
That's awesome, dude. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time and hanging out and chatting with us, and doing get to a little deep dive into how you're building the Jeb Smith brand, right? So if you're not following Jeb, go hit him up at Jeb Smith. I'm sure it's on YouTube, right? What's it on Instagram?
It's all the same.
Well, at Jeb Smith everywhere. There's no other Jeb Smiths out there.
No, there are, man. I was just fortunate enough to get in at the
get them all at the right time
yeah.
here. Well, I appreciate you guys taking some time to listen to the I Take That Personal podcast. And once again, I'm John Soricelli, Mr. Jeb Smith. One day, I'll be like you.
Hey, dude, you're already there. Appreciate it, brother.
All right, brother, man.
Thank you.